Ba-da-ba-ba-da-da, da-da-da-da. Voice check, all that fun jazz. Hello, Kim. Hi,
Hi.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, we hear you. We're here for support.
Hi. Huzzah. I am up. I've got my coffee. I'm not happy about it. I'm awake. I have a fault, unfortunately, for everybody involved. I'm about to make it your problem. Let's do some science.
All right, go for it.
Okay. So, in about 3 minutes, I'll just launch into the spiel. But the basic idea for this particular hour-long panel is that science-based RP is a valuable tool for world building, and in fact, it is a reasonably common idea that this is a valuable tool, specifically because there are games like Microscope, which does history. There's Map Maker, which builds your maps for your Dungeons and Dragons games. These are things that you can get free sources for, like either PDFs or you can buy the Map Maker kit bundle. I think Quest Snakes also has a world building in-game feature, and I know that there are some RPG systems that have quest line tables that you can fill out. Usually for DMs, but storytellers. Um, Either way, the point is that there's a lot of exploring in RPGs, and you can get some very interesting things going on. I don't know how many people are going to join, primarily because most RP is combat focused, but you know. Oh, hello. Rocky, yes, from TNU. Now, what is TNU?
That
Just
is the New Universes Project. That is one of the nonprofits that also helps runs the Simming Hub. They also do science fiction freeform roleplay.
very nice. That is super cool. Um, that nice. All right, 11:59. As the crow flies, and it is 12. Yeah, Kim does explain perfectly. Kim is a way better writer than I feel like I would ever
Oh,
be, and I realize now that I have grown in skill a lot. So take that compliment with a grain of salt before you get spicy.
no self-depreciating. You're
Uh,
running a panel. Go forth in science, my
I will
friend.
I will make I will happily make all the self-deprecating humor I want, because here's the thing about science RP, and especially why I love it so much, is because I don't know everything. I don't know everything about my own damn species. It took me an hour of fighting with Google and with Wikipedia to figure out the phylogeny of Senti. Okay, I had to develop an entirely new phylogeny system and load in physical features of different SARP critters to make sure it worked. Okay, it science RP is not easy, and it is a lot of fun, and I personally love it. So I'm going to make all the self-deprecating humor I can, because simply because, again, I don't know everything. I might figure out something, if I'm playing Senti or if I'm playing Neko Valkyria, and go, that doesn't quite work the way it's described. Let's figure out what's going on there. And then we have this in character discussion about it, and it's like, oh, the published information isn't quite accurate. Cool, not a problem.
All right, you are
Yeah,
welcome to start rolling, Mads.
yeah. Okay, so Um, hello to Condrom. Oh, Condormita. However you pronounce that name. I know him. He's actually read through my plot work on the Shadows of the Gilded Age. So, speaking of, let's go into the idea that science-based roleplay and exploring a science fiction world is just as cool as combat sometimes, most of the time, honestly. Because I can read another person's writing, and being somebody who played, whose first character was scientific in nature, and who currently plays somebody who's trying to be scientific in nature, um, I'm looking at like Kim's posts on Star Army, and I'm going, "That's really cool that they do that. Let's figure out how that works." Um, and I want to enable other players to be able to do that. So I did a little research and I did a little digging around, and yeah, no, my first science plot was not that successful. Go figure. But I found a couple of really interesting games specific to science. Um, or well, maybe not necessarily science, but like microscope uh, does really translates well to a science or to a science lens. It's really designed for history. You know, it's let's identify a region of history and what happened here and what happened here and what happened next and how this affects the next thing, which is a lot of fun. And I've played it on SARP with a writer by the name of Soban. It was it was a learning experience and it was a lot of fun. Okay, you went for your degree in engineering so that you could make your role play accurate. Funny you should mention that. Andrew, could you take a wild guess what my career is, please? Or Kim, or whoever.
Well,
Um,
I know you used to be a mechanic, like, and you do something with snakes right now.
yeah, I'm actually an animal control officer. I work. I mostly catch, measure, and release wild snakes from people's yards. I basically just do herpetological services these days. But yes, I did used to be a mechanic, and I still love working on my project car, my my lovable Korean shitbox. Um, but Core Ton does actually have a point here. The knowledge of scientific process and the knowledge of engineering can be extremely helpful in writing and figuring out what's going on with a piece of technology. Um, the the fact of the matter is that you're right. That you know, scientific RP is not for everybody. It is, however, for a lot of people. And this is sci-fi, so let's do some science and make it everybody else's problem. Any questions before we get too stupid into it? Because it's only been 6 minutes and I've been rambling and kind of almost repeating myself
It's
because
it's
I
your
don't
panel.
really. I,
It's your panel,
I
dear.
don't
You
have
can
much.
present it. You can present this however you want.
Okay, let's actually go over the thematic differences between science and combat RP, like what we see, or even political. What we see in like Star Army is a lot of political and combat oriented RP. These are people in power armor going and fighting giant monsters and people making political maneuverings to and have and building their kingdoms. But what we don't see quite as much of is people sitting down with an ancient piece of technology or a derelict or something like that and going, okay, what the fuck is this? Who built it? Where did it come from? And what can we learn from it? It's kind of the basis of Shadows of the Gilded Age.
Why don't you explain
Um,
what Shadows of a Gilded Age is for people that aren't Sarpers?
oh, you know what? That's a great idea. Okay, so yeah, keep in mind I have ADHD. Please bear with me.
I'll try to steer your squirrels.
Easier said than done. Okay, so Shadows of
I
the
know.
Gilded Age. In earlier this year, a Star Army of Yamatai training vessel doing pirate mapping or pirate activity mapping out north of the main faction territory um, found something. It's a piece of metal, mostly iron and particle accelerators, and some kind of crystalline computing hardware, easily hundreds of thousands of years old. And we don't actually have a solid ID on species of origin. Now, I know what they are as the game master. The Most of the players know what it is. The characters do not. And that's the whole goal of the plot, is to have these characters work through this derelict, this piece of this truly ancient artifact, older than almost any civilization so far, and figure out who built it, why they built it, and how big of a threat actually is it. Um, Now, don't get me wrong; it's going to get kind of messy, especially if we listen to that idiot baby captain, because she wants to start the derelict up and drive it home under its own power. The problem is that the reactors are the basis for sentient beam cutter technology. Um, Now, beam cutters are a little bit strange and they've been observed, but I don't think anybody's gotten a solid scan of one, primarily because of how they work. Um, so of course, this derelict provides an amazing opportunity to figure out how beam cutters work, but at the same time, we've got other issues. You want to start them up first off. Excuse the fuck out of me. Actually, yes.
Yes,
That Yes, Colin. That whole arc of wanting to start it up is actually based on the old sci-fi movie Virus, if I remember correctly. You were saying, Cam.
oh no, let's go ahead. I'm a big fan of horror sci-fi RPs myself. Like I've run them in the past, and I love that fear of the unknown, especially when you're dealing with an unknown species where you don't know how they're going to react. Like we see it a lot in stuff like Dead Space, Pandorum, Event Horizon, of course, The Thing, um, Frozen Hell. All of those are really really fun. Like what the hell is going on? So, and I find those are really good hooks for a research-based RP where you don't know what's going on. Everything is going wrong. Everything's on fire, and you need to find a scientific solution to figure out how to stop the thing.
Tim, have I ever told you how much I love your taste in movies? Because you just listed off like five of my favorites of all time. Um, but yeah, that is kind of the premise is um, how bad how bad things go is a direct result of the player's curiosity. Because if you notice in a lot of these science cerebral horror movies where a lot of the danger and a lot of the chaos is environmental, um, most of the things that started the mess is somebody got a little too curious and a little bit too loosey goosey with the rules. Like if we look at Alien, Sigourney Weaver's character in the original Alien was the only one who actually followed the basic procedure for dealing with xenomorph. Um, for any kind of alien life, we don't know what it is. We're not letting it on the ship, kind of quarantine. And she was right to, because somebody didn't listen to her and everybody died. Um, Now, that was a creature feature, not an environmental horror like Event Horizon. And Event Horizon, they didn't really have a choice on whether or not to be there. They got their orders, they got their rescue ship, they got everything up and going, and their job was to figure out what happened and to get the ship back to Earth. Um, that didn't go according to plan.
Hmm.
Uh, that did not go according to plan at all.
No.
We didn't. It was really cool figuring out what happened in there, and it was also really cool what happened with Pandorum, because in Pandorum the monsters that they were facing weren't actually alien. They were humans hyper adapted to the conditions of the ship. I thought that was a really cool monster, but it is also a tale of what happens when science goes a little bit fucky.
Okay. So
Also,
Mads,
mm,
so
mm,
so pulling on these themes, so I'm just going to help direct you a little bit. So pulling
thank
on
you.
these themes of these movies that you really love and these themes, how would you approach it in your own role play? How would you set that up?
Well, I feel like I've already set it up in the current threads. Basically, I've got one transmissions and communications thread, basically a comm chatter line that is strictly for in character reports. These are the things that the characters themselves write about what they are observing and what they are understanding. We've got the RP threads and asides and what or whatnot, what have you, that are literally just them going to be them going in and seeing what they see. Now, because I haven't done a whole hell of a lot with that old of that particular species um, technology and culture and such, all I can do is play the ship's computer who is giving suggestions on how to approach this. Um, and what the characters find helps determine where the story goes. Um, one of Wes's admirals personally told the ship's computer to change the delivery location, if I remember correctly. Um, so that's the kind of thing that can happen. Another thing that could happen is, you know, we I already gave the players a device, a modified energy sword that can deliver the appropriate type of plasma charge to operate computers on that ship. So they can boot up individual consoles, individual computers, scrape the data off of it, and figure out what's going on. I am going to, once we get, if we get any kind of stuff there, I'm going to go ahead and let the computer start chewing on the language, see if we can translate it, see if we can figure out, um, any kind of similarity to anything else in the local universe. Which will tell us a lot about who built it. We're also looking for bodies. And one of the things that I learned from James White's hospital ship is that you don't a dead body won't actually tell you that much, especially in a very long dead ship. You know what you should be looking for? It's art. Specifically, you're looking for porn. Can anybody tell me why you would look for porn?
Yo, this went in a direction I did not expect.
Oh,
Yo.
yeah. I definitely wanna hear your answer on this. That's kind of not the science route that I would go for, but apparently that's the word that that triggers. Go ahead, man. I want to hear it.
Okay.
Let's go.
So in James White's novella Ambulance Ship, which deals with speculative biology and medical treatment of alien species that you know very little about, one of the things that the boarding team recommended looking for was pinups, pornographic material, any kind of image that would show what the species looks like while it is alive, and what the and it will also give anthropological clues as to what the dominant flavor of sexuality is.
So like, and also like the I guess desired features that.
Oh God.
Yes, it'll get a lot of information on beauty standards.
Like so, like if it's a crab species, like do all the posters have like really big left claws or something? You know.
Exactly. Or do they have ornate decorations on their shell? Any kind of it'll give a lot of information on desired proportions, on such and stuff like that. But you're not looking for drawn necessarily because of computer technology. You're looking for very specifically printed. You're looking for photographs. Any hard copy books that you can find are going to give you clues about language. The problem with that, though, is that pursuant to another panelist's discussion earlier today, about 9 for me, you have no idea the day-to-day experiences of this species, and language is extremely contextual. So the idea that somebody has written a similar enough book to one of yours that you can translate it and go, okay, here's a similar enough book, we can use this as a Rosetta Stone. No, that's not how that works. But you can get codex, common characters, any kind of information on how on how a sufficiently advanced spoken languages. Partially because you're going to be looking at notation, you're going to be looking at pictograms, and you're going to be figuring out, okay, so they probably speak this way because they write this way. assuming they have a similar brain structure to yours. Although I'm still planning on fighting Wes about that phylogeny thing that we had discussed earlier today. Another. So yeah, the boarding team is looking for porn, and for exactly the reasons that I specified. Because not just because it's funny, because it is, it's hilarious, but because of what that porn will tell you about the species that made it. That make any sense to anybody?
Yeah, so what else do you think that if you're writing a science-based sort of like exploration plot, should you as a GM put in place for players to find, or how do you think you should guide them?
The way I plan on doing it is not is actually giving them a lot more than they think they have. Like I in the transmissions and communications thread for Shadows of the Gilded Age specifically, I gave a very detailed description of the ship with scan data, with recommendations, and what the captain's doing. Right, Wes?
Correct.
You're the one. So if the players read that, then they know roughly what they're looking at. And they actually have all the information that they need in order to tell what the species of origin is. So they have all the information that they need to go in there and go, okay, cool, this is this. But the way it is framed is we don't know. So please detail, detail, detail. Give me what you see, what you're doing, that sort of thing. The trick to game mastering a science plot is the same as teaching. It's the same dilemma. You're showing them what to look for, but you're not telling them what to see. Which can get entertaining fast because sometimes they'll come up with something that you didn't expect, and all of a sudden, okay, that explains something new. That's what happened with the HX14 plot. Gods, what that was almost 10 years ago that I did HX14. Lost Colony. Basically, that plot was all about we have this place on the map that says unknown humanoid or unknown species colony here. Apparently, somebody made first contact with them and then they completely fucking disappeared. So, the HX14 survey was a mercenary researcher that I played, a bunch of other scientific characters, and a couple of ships going forth and going to go survey that planet, make second contact if they can, figure out what happened if they can't. Things went a little off the rails. We didn't find any bodies. We just found these beak-like structures and a couple of very long, thin bones. Yeah, Cohen gets it. So we didn't find any bodies. We found the infrastructure almost completely intact. All of the planetary infrastructure, this biosphere that should have been mostly microbes and maybe some grasses. We found a bunch of life, certainly, but we found cities that were intact and completely abandoned, apparently for like 10, 15 years. We did not find any bodies, but we did find some very long, very wide, very flat bones, and a beak-like structure. We also found some tabloid art depicting a cephalopoid of some flavor, an upright cephalopoid. So squid-like creature. That no, that plot didn't go anywhere after that. We found a couple of their satellites. We got their satellites up and running. We figured out that the reason that this planet stopped existing was because of an automatic update routine in the technology that shut it all down for maintenance, including the implants keeping that allowed a sort of technology or a sort of telepathy, like a neural implant. Now, when that shut down, it killed all of them. A few survived, sure, but they didn't live long. They were soft and squishy and kind of squid-like. And it wasn't my character that figured that out. That was actually one of Ame's characters that got infected with this thing and figured it out the hard way. You ever see a Neko just go to sleep? And of course, Aranya, the Paladin RPG's Lorath actually figured out what it was, and after that, the plot just kind of died, and there was nothing to do there. But I think there's a colony there now that's using some of the old infrastructure. Is that correct, Wes? Or is that not my question?
She, maybe, but she's not here, so we can move on.
Yes, we can. So
Okay, so
that's what I'm. Mhm.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I
Well,
don't want to spoil you.
that's the sort of thing. That's the sort of thing that I'm hoping to do with Shadows. Um, Now, originally, Shadows of the Gilded Age was a mission plan for another plot, the NSS Wrath of Nepleslia warship plot ship thing. That didn't even get off the first mission. Okay, the idea for that one was that a beacon in the wreckage of Terasiel, one of the Senti flotillas, was pinging off of something in the Crab Nebula, and that something was a space station in which we find intact Senti war era technology and people in stasis. Now, cool ideas all around, but I also kind of thought, I don't really want anything from that era to be around because that was an Extinction War era. So, no, thank you. So instead, I retooled the name. I spun up this thing about finding a derelict of the era. So now we have Shadows of the Gilded Age, and I'm working and I'm and letting the players free play until like Monday.
Okay. So, Maddie, you said at the very beginning that you had a lot of suggestions for good collaborative tools for people that aren't necessarily science people to help run science roleplay. So, what are some of those tools that you like to use to help people science better, or at least fake it?
Yeah, fair. I love the game Microscope. Absolutely love it. It's one of those collaborative world building tools. Wes and Soban and I played it together to develop Separation history on SARP a while back. I love it it's a fantastic world building tool, especially for history. But if you re-lens it slightly, you can also use it to do science. Okay, when you do X, Y happens. Why does Y happen? Cool. Why does that affect? Why does that phenomenon affect Y? Again, you go down and down until you move on to the next subject, and then keep going. Um, and it really just kind of forces you into this scientific method mindset, even when you're doing history. There's also a map makers game that recently came out on Kickstarter um, that have also fallen in love with. That is literally a bunch of dice for terrain features and cities. And then you go into this minute detail of, okay, so I rolled for mountains and a city. Okay, so I'm going to roll for who runs that city right now. It's not dwarves, it's not humans, it's friggin' elves. Why are elves in a mountain city? Ask the question. Ask the question, come up with an answer you sort of like, and let the players do the rest. There are now I've been known to experiment with AI with large language models before. Um, it's never really gone particularly well for me, but it works really well for some people as long as you're not copy pasting off of it and using it as kind of a sounding board. It works really well, especially if you can't get other players. Because I've been play testing the Centi solo for like 10 years now. Closer to 15, actually. No, it is 15 because I first came up with the Centi concept 15 goddamn years ago. Um, but again, there are a lot of different tools, and you've kind of got to cater which tools you use to your player group. For example, right now in Shadows, I have two medical characters confirmed, one um, scientific studies service, so a civilian scientist, um, pending that first play drop, um, and an armorer and materials guy that again we're trying to get him to post in ways that are less verbose. We're trying to get him to post things that are a little bit more to the point. Um, so now I've got to cater the tools and the findings to those players. So I'm gonna have to do some more soul searching on collaborative world building tools. If anybody has any suggestions, because I know that I am not, I'm by far and away not the expert. Talking to the lady behind some of the coolest monsters in I've ever seen. So
Uh, so there's lots of cool tools. So there's a bunch of different map making programs out there that will randomly generate star maps. I forget what they're called off the top of my head. I think like Astroforge. And then there are different dungeon map makers too. Some of them are free, some of them are not. I am a geographic information systems major with a geospatial intelligence analytics focus. So I tend to focus on how to integrate real world data into like fictional settings. So it gets a little bit trickier for, say, a spaceborne science fiction setting. But utilizing existing maps and photos and manipulating the heck out of them is a good way of using it. And sometimes running with current advances in technology or research developments can really help spin off into cool areas. Like for the Valor in Star Army, it is a basically a energy producing parasite that kind of has altered the genetic structure of the people it infects. And I pulled that from articles about energy producing bacteria that were found at the bottom of a pond. So it just these things just create energy. And I thought, what if you had a species of of humanoids that have been infected with this, and how would that fit into this this species like biome? I like to think about ecosystems when I build out my monsters. So it's like if I have this creature in this setting, what's eating it? What is it eating? How does that feed into that? And then how can I make it terrifying for my players? Like having a species that basically deals with consumption and production and control of energy. Well, if you take them into a science fiction setting with that primarily uses like some sort of like radiant nuclear energy as its power source in all of its weapons or energy, what happens when what happens when that species is now your enemy, where all of your energy weapons are absolutely useless, are not as effective against them as you wish, and you're actually, when you shoot them
Or
with your
even
laser
worse,
gun,
or even
yeah,
worse, you're just feeding them.
yes. So it becomes a horror scenario in the science fiction setting, but it's like, but that's spun off of energy producing bacteria. Um,
Like, sorry to cut you off here, Kim, but that is exactly the kind of question asking into world building that I'm trying to make points on. Like, for example, would you believe that the Senti were based on a research article I read 15 years ago about a deep sea snail that integrates iron sulfate into its shell?
yeah, and I find that pulling from like little snippets of cool stuff from like science articles and stuff like that, and then just kind of running with it is a good way of approaching it. And you can pull inspiration from anywhere, and depending on how hard your science fiction setting is, uh, you can get away with a lot. If you go for a softer science fiction setting, you can where it's stuff that's kind of like hypothetical and not necessarily in the realms of like scientific reality right now. Like if you told me when I was like 5 that we'd actually have the smartwatches with the wristwatches with the phones and stuff in it, I wouldn't believe you because that's Dick Tracy, like 1950s comic books science. So reading a lot helps.
Wristwatch
Uh,
communicators.
yeah,
Sorry. Uh,
yeah, or tracking devices. So like there's lots of cool stuff to pull from. Like I'm not a hard science person per se. I'm actually, well, kind of. I'm a forensics person, so mine's more like criminal investigation, procedural science, medical things. But I like to pull from different sources, different types of inspirations. And usually when I set up a sort of like research-based investigation, I think about where people can find information. So like computers, journals, sticky notes, random
porn.
effects.
Random.
Hey, you're yeah, like
I
phone
got a
logs,
point.
like yeah, phone logs, search histories, all of that other stuff, pulling from my digital forensics background. That way, I think about how something feels, how it smells, how it tastes. Because when you start introducing those factors in to the role play setting, you trigger different things in their brain. Like if you smell something like burnt almonds, most people know that there's something poisonous if it's something that smells like rotten eggs, that sort of stuff. So when in doubt, Google. And then like when you don't have a good answer, just make it up and just keep going. But
Make it up, keep going, and if your players are in the same headspace that you are about the science, they're going to figure out why it is doing the thing, and then you
yeah,
can use that against them later.
yeah, and feel free to pull from like YouTube videos. Archive.org is a good good resource for free books. Any library programs. Anything for sounds is also really good too, because different sounds can give you different context clues of what you want people to be looking for. And if you insert a sound into a text-based chat or a joint post or something like that, it helps with the immersion a lot. I've been doing a lot with pictures and sound and music to try getting it like make it more interesting. But
And you've been doing
yeah, there's
phenomenal with that. You've been doing
lots of really
phenomenal
cool
with that.
stuff. Thank you.
The problem that I'm having with this science plot is there's not a whole hell of a lot of vocalization right now, and a lot of the voice generation stuff doesn't get pronunciation right, especially in what is supposed to be an alien language, which, let's face it, is it's structured like Lithuanian translated to fucking Albed or some shit like that.
It's funny you say that because I'm using Latvian.
You're using Latvian?
Yes. You have to read very specific posts to see it. But yeah, okay. So you have about 17 minutes, I think, left before the next panel comes up. So I guess any final thoughts, questions, anything anyone wants to contribute. Khan has said most of our stuff is in the future, so we keep changing science as we go. Just look at gas giants on TOS versus what Jupiter looks like from Juno or Saturn or from Cassini. James Webb is also breaking physics left and right, so anything goes.
That is true, and it's also very important to note that it's not that James Webb is breaking or changing physics in any way. It's just we're seeing new pieces of the puzzle. Um, it Physics and science in general is kind of like watching a chess game, but you don't know the rules. You can't ask the players what the rules are, but so all you can do is watch. Now you can get bits and pieces here and there, but as far as learning the game goes, that's not how to do it. You need the questions, you need the explanations. So you start coming up with those on your own, and all of a sudden you've got a pretty good idea of what chess looks like until somebody does something really odd. Like it took me 20 years. I was 20 years old when I figured out that en passant was a move that pawns can do.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Possible answer.
Okay, so as a GM, how does having a science officer NPC versus a science officer PC work? Like, what differences do you have to make to accommodate the science officer being a player versus one that you control? Like,
A game master science officer is going to be somebody who is going to be a source of information for the players. This is going to be uh, somebody that the player characters should ideally trust to give them good information to do their job more effectively. A player character, however, is going to need a bit more detail from the GM because they're going to be looking at things and figuring out what's going on. As Andrew can confirm with his 6th Expeditionary Fleet plot and the training arc that just went through. um, Now my character is by no means a science officer. She's actually an astronavigator, but she was trying to figure out physics models for where she was going based on what she was observing. specifically so that she could navigate that universe and try to keep the crew alive. So, a player character science officer is going to be looking at the information that the game master gives them and figuring out what's going on. A game master science character NPC is going to be showing the players what's going on so that they don't die. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just providing the right sort of context clues that and I think a lot of it also comes down to improvisation rules, where you can let your science officer player lead, come up with their own conclusions, and kind of spin off that way. Because you want to, what the fuck? Sorry, some random YouTube videos start playing. It's like, oh no, what's going on? The AI is after me. But it's going by improvisation rules, letting your players come to conclusions and start steering things in a direction. I think giving people the tools to make decisions and guide the story, I think, is one of the hardest things to do as a GM, because you want the plot to go a certain direction, but if your players are more interested in finding out what that particular cute creature over there eats versus like dealing with the big scary monster next to it, you kind of have to give them the tools to get to the place where you can say yes. It's like, well, let's go that way, because you want to give them the option. You don't want to railroad them.
Well, and there's also a bit of subtlety there. For example, in your little cutesy creature with a big scary monster next to it scenario, I, as a GM, would go through my notes and go, okay, little cutesy monster is the baby of the big scary one. So they can try to approach it, but Mama Bear's not going to be too happy with them.
Yeah, I agree,
And
Wes,
that,
for yeah. So like when you start dealing with the science officer NPC, that can be their walking wiki. Their walking wiki or their
yes,
walking Google. And I think you have to be careful with that sometimes, because you just end up with exposition dumps. And if it's too long, didn't read, your players are going to get like only they're going to go off half cocked and like get blown up. So,
well, sometimes that's the fun. Like if the
yeah.
players rely too much on a science officer, like these are still people. Okay, your science officer isn't going to be correct 100% of the time. She has an educated guess at best of what's going on, especially in a new situation. So you can listen to her or not. Listening to her might get you killed. Not listening to her almost certainly will.
I think making it so that it's okay if your players are you're letting the players get things wrong sometimes too, because I think going sometimes the wrong conclusion can lead to interesting results. So I think it's also thinking about failure isn't necessarily an end; it's an opportunity for something new, and that's kind of a hard concept to embrace, because nobody wants to look like an idiot, or no one wants to feel foolish. But like when you're doing those sorts of science plots, you have to let people make mistakes, because that's how we get penicillin, right?
Oh yeah. If I remember correctly, there was a MythBusters quote that shines here. Or a couple really. The first one that comes to mind is failure is always an option. And the second one is the difference between science and fucking around is taking notes. So, the failure should be an option. Like, did did Edison's team produce the first marketable light bulbs using the first time? No. The material selection and the testing took months, over 1,000 tries, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this definitely it reminds me of a character I had a long while ago where things were going wrong and they were like complaining, and it was almost like the other characters were irritated that he couldn't figure it out. But I kind of enjoyed it. I was like, no, this is good. He needs to be flawed. Because otherwise, you end up with these
That
people who are just like perpetually always right, and it's just any conflict is like resolved. Yeah, at least with that.
Yeah, I've never liked the science guy is always right tropes. I do like to play my my science characters as it is possible that they're wrong. And it's always great fun when I'm saying something scientific in a plot, and then it later gets proven right or wrong, because either I get this yes or fuck uh moment, which I have a feeling Andrew is going to absolutely mollywop the hell out of me with later on.
Well,
Andrew,
like,
you have full permission to punish me for trying to math out everything.
I do think that you can get caught up in project creep if you try to map everything out ahead of time. I think that's really good planning, but if you're trying to unfold as you go, you kind of can get lost in it. Like, I know my son is very interested in evolutionary biology, and so for his setting, he has been creating his society from single cell organisms all the way up. Uh, and well, that's really cool and massive and like really detailed. It's been like 10 years. He hasn't finished it. And I don't know what he's going to do with it. But so you have to be careful, because it's like the ultimate goal of what we do is to tell a story. And if you're not using that stuff, you can't use that stuff right now, then you're just kind of building, you're writing a book, which is fine. You can write your book, but it's just like try to parcel out the things that you can deal with in digestible chunks. So you have a thing that you can use in your setting that you can explore with your players together to tell a really good story. So
Yeah.
that's my
Now,
my soapbox.
oh yeah. Well, if the plot if the initial plot goes well, I do plan on turning the YSS Baranohin the Bara. Let's just call it Bara. Because I don't know how to. I don't speak Japanese. I don't know how to pronounce that. Or is it Hanabira? Anyway, I do plan on taking that ship and turning it into a dedicated science and Star Army training plot ship that goes around and chases the resurgence. Well, doesn't chase, but follows them and does the second contact, the actual archaeological scut work that resurgence is too busy fighting aliens to do. Because I don't know about you, but I'm really interested in the progenitors and the Zynar uh, for Star Army, and I'd really like to see them fleshed out and see what the characters can figure out from interacting with their technology, um, from figuring out how their language works, and building up Star Army knowledge based on that. Also, because I haven't seen a science award in like 5 years. I think Sakurai's science award for the ST project was the last one that got done, and that was because I asked him to do it.
Yeah. I think whatever the players want to do is always something that we should support as GMs. Again, we should always try to find a way to get to yes. And I do like the idea of some mystery remaining in a setting, even if we can understand it or explain it for the most part. Having that, like, well, maybe we just haven't figured this out yet is also good. Like long-term goals and stuff like that. I like the idea of a science ship following behind the warship that's trying not to die and trying to make contact with things and try not to upset the local wildlife or get sick. Um, but yeah, it's cool stuff, and
And
I think there's lots of cool concepts that you can pull from that, or like you can develop new technology. You know, as you're investigating stuff, you can help pitch ideas for new technologies that your players could use, or new techniques, or just whatever you can get your hands on.
and even then, once we start going into science plots like this, we start going into something that I learned from a group, an RP group by the name of. By the way, Stellaris is phenomenal, and I loved working with them. But I'm just sad that my thing never got published with them. But I loved working with their team. Anyway, um, going into these science plots and GMing these also goes into things like development threads, which is something that I learned from um, another RP site that's now defunct. I don't remember exactly which one it was. Um, but they have these things called development threads. Anytime that you wanted to put a new technology on the wiki, you had to do it to a development thread. This was a thread of your of your faction's scientists and engineers getting together and coming up with it, figuring out why they need it, and doing what they can to figure out how to make it work in setting. And the wiki was written based off of that thread.
That's
I love
cool.
dev threads.
Yeah, that's a really
I
cool
absolutely,
idea.
I absolutely love dev threads. I also love the next time rule, but then again, I've only seen the next time rule used once, and it was phenomenal.
Okay, it looks like that is about time. Uh, so if you guys want to continue talking science things, you can jump into the voice overflow. And it looks like there's going to
I shall
be
overthrow the voice.
yes, you shall overthrow it.
Oh.
So it looks like it's jamming under fire, stepping up when a sim needs a new GM in voice 1, and then there is the text panel, which is STF's role playing environment, a case study, over in text panel 1. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for hosting, Maddie.
And
Thank you, Kim.
I thank you for saving my damn panel, Kim.
Oh,
Like, holy crap!
just
I
just
came
trying to
in way
help.
underprepared.
It's all
Thank
right.
you.
You did good, Maddie. Thank you.
I'm going to be over in Overflow 1. By the way, anybody who wants to go to VC1, Stargirl Cass is presenting over there. She is the game master for USS Deliverance. I play on Deliverance, and Cass is an amazing, amazing human being, and you should really listen to her. Have fun.